So, Chapter 9 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex is finally here, and let's just say it's one of the most interesting chapters in the entirety of the manga. First, we have Boruto absolutely destroying Kawaki once again. We have Jura detonating a Tail Beast bomb in the village, and we also have the long-awaited return of the Nine Tails to the story. So we have a lot to discuss, but of course we're gonna start from the top. So on the cover for this month, we have Inajin, Shikadai, and Chocho, which makes perfect sense since they have a really cool moment in this chapter. In fact, the first interactions in this chapter is between Team 10 and Jura. So first we have Shikadai reporting to the sensory team saying that they came in contact with the two intruders and that Sasuke's whereabouts is unknown. Now of course, just to clarify, this doesn't mean that Jura is there by himself. Hidari is still beside Jura, but Shikadai doesn't know that Sasuke is in fact Hidari, which is why he's making this statement. Now we then went on to ask Jura what's his business in the village, and Jura pulled out this book and said, "I remember you. As I thought, you are Shikadai Nara, belonging to the 10 squad led by Moegi, son of the Hokage." Now this is interesting because it implies that Jura has the information of everyone noted down in a book for some reason, which implies that Jura remembered Shikadai and Shikamaru and just decided to write it down in a book. But it could also be the case that he found this book in the library he visited before, and it just happened to have Shikadai's information. He just happened to meet Shikadai later on. So coincidences can happen, and this appears to be the case here as well. Now what I found more interesting is after Shikadai asked him if he wanted him to pass a message on to his father, Jura replied saying, "Unfortunately, I have business with my predecessor. I came here following Naruto's clues. To be truthful, we're also very surprised." Now the reason why I find this very interesting is that he refers to Naruto as his predecessor, but at the same time he could be referring to Kurama because Kurama is the chakra he's tracing to find Naruto. So if the Nine Tails is the predecessor he's referring to, it could be the case that this new 10 Tails that Ishiki possessed came from the original 10 Tails in Naruto, like maybe a bud or a seedling that detached from the original 10 Tails before it was destroyed or sealed away. So that somewhat introduces a new kind of lore into the series, with the 10 Tails giving birth to another 10 Tails, which somewhat makes sense given what happens with Kurama later on in this chapter, but we're gonna get to that point soon. Now the guys went on to clarify to Jura that Naruto hasn't been in the village for over 3 years, and Jura replied saying, "I see. At the very least, we know he's not in the village." The Kyuubi's response is only stemming from Himawari. And of course the guys are shocked by this, and Chocho said something very funny. She's like, "What's with this guy? He's been babbling non-stop. His appearance and hairstyle too. He's definitely dangerous." So she's just saying like, "Yo, this dude is dangerous based on his hairstyle." Now this makes sense that you'd say this if someone is dressed a certain way, but she looks at this dude's hairstyle and says, "Yeah, this dude is dangerous." And I agree, bro. Like, look at this, bro. That's crazy. But yeah, Jura went on to explain that he doesn't understand it much either. This is a truly mysterious world. One question after another keeps popping up. However, that's a good thing. So this kind of gives us some insight into Jura's character because he likes information, he likes to read books, he likes to solve problems. And this kind of informs what happens later on in this chapter as well. So Jura tries to trap Himawari using this wood release cage thing, and Team 10 just immediately sprung into action. So we have Shikadai grabbing the wood itself using shadow paralysis, preventing it from wrapping around Himawari, and then we have Inajin pulling her from it using a beast from his Tail Beast scroll, and then Chocho rushes in to grab her before she falls. That's when Jura says, "This one's amazing. To display such coordination without exchanging words is remarkable." He then said that he'll respect the teamwork and offer some advice. "Our only goal and purpose is Uzumaki Himawari. I have no hostility towards you three. However, if you intend on resisting, I will have no choice but to attack." And that's when Shikamaru kinda chipped in with Shikadai and he's asking, "Yo, what's going on?" And I find this very interesting because Shikadai is fighting this dude, this 10 Tails being, this overwhelming force that Boruto explained to Shikamaru, and Shikamaru is like, yo, what's going on? Is everything good, bro?" And Shikadai is like, "The enemy's target is Himawari. I don't know why though, the Kyuubi is involved." And Shikamaru is like, "What?" And the reason why I find this funny is because this word is Shikamaru's favorite word in TBV. He just says "what" every single chapter because he's receiving so much information. And I understand why, like, this is shocking. It doesn't make sense. Why would Himawari be related to the Nine Tails? But at the same time, bro's in his office, village is getting attacked, people are dying, and he just won't go outside. He just won't go outside to help them. Like, he's the first Hokage that doesn't get involved in actual physical fights. Like, bro legit never leaves his office. And of course, you guys might just say, "Yeah, he's the Hokage, he shouldn't," but he's the only Hokage Hokage that doesn't get involved, you know, like repeatedly over time. But then again, you know, this is a different generation. Maybe he believes that the Hokage shouldn't be doing this, you know, he's taking the more like real life approach where the guy just sits in the office and gives orders, you know, maybe that's the case. But yeah, we skip over to Kawaki laying on the ground. He's still knocked out from the punch from Jura, and we have Amado watching this through his monitor, and he said something very interesting. He says, what's the matter with this guy? So he's looking at Kawaki saying, what's the matter with Kawaki? Now the reason why I think people shouldn't ignore this is because it kind of implies that something is wrong with Kawaki. He should be stronger than he currently is, and Amado is questioning why this is happening to him. So it could be the case that Kawaki doesn't necessarily need to go get a power up, he just needs to tap into the power that's already existing within his body. So it could be the case that he's suffering some mental blocks that is preventing him from tapping into his full Otsutsuki power, and it's more than likely linked to the guilt he feels for taking Boruto's life and whatever he did to Naruto. That's limiting his potential. So it might be a case that he needs to overcome this instead of getting another power up from someone else. And then there's this other thing that I don't think people account for, is the fact that Kawaki's karma seal is different from Boruto's. Boruto's karma seal is a natural karma seal that was given to him from an Otsutsuki. The karma seal on Kawaki is a reconstructed karma seal, so it might function differently, and that might be limiting his potential in some way. Now the karma seal that Kawaki has is stated to be a weapon, and this allows him to access Ishiki's dojutsu, access his multitude of abilities. Boruto on the other hand, with the natural karma, isn't able to tap into Momoshiki's multitude of abilities for some reason. So I feel like it might be the case that the vessel doesn't naturally have the ability to tap into this power. They shouldn't be able to, but Amado made it possible with this karma seal. So there might be some side effect to it, and that might be restricting Kawaki's use of the karma seal in general, but of course we're gonna find out soon enough. Now then skip over to Boruto in this wasteland place, and it seems to be Orochimaru's hideout because it has the same design on the walls and it also has literal snakes, so they can't make it more obvious. And he's there with Kashin Koji and they're having a conversation. Now I did find it interesting that Boruto was looking at his palm, and this leads into something that happens later on, but I'm gonna save this point for when we get to that point in the chapter. But yeah, Kashin Koji is back, and it seems that they're in Orochimaru's hideout, and this might imply that, you know, they have met Orochimaru. Maybe Orochimaru is on their side. Now I did make a video on this over 7 months ago, so this theory likely will come true in the next chapter. I'm not gonna say it has because we haven't seen Orochimaru's yet, but this chapter does imply that they're working with Orochimaru. Now it might be the case that he is immune to omnipotence and that's why they can work with him, or it might be the case that he just does not care because Orochimaru is morally gray. So if they're able to explain to him, he might believe it based on science, and it doesn't have any emotion behind it, which makes it even more difficult. So that might be the case, or it could also be the case that they're just working at one of Orochimaru's hideouts that he doesn't use anymore. So guess we'll have to just wait and see. Now we also see that Kashin Koji is watching the village through his toads, and he sees that the Ten-Tails beings or the Shinjus are attacking the village, and then informs Boruto of this and tells him to fly to Mount Miyaboku. We then skip back to the conversation between Jura and Shikadai, and Shikadai then asked him to tell him one thing. You guys came here following the clue about Naruto, and now you're focused on Himawari. Why? Jura then replied saying, let's be honest here. The clue I mentioned is the QB itself, because I can feel that chakra reaction from Uzumaki Himawari. As I said before, we're also shocked as well. Why has it come to this? We need to know. Uzumaki Himawari, by devouring you, I'll get my answer. We then skip back to Kawaki once again, and we see that he's finally waking up and Delta is there watching over him. He then tells her to not yell at him. If it's damaged, he'll recover. She then says just because you have almost invincible regeneration, it makes you reckless. She then tells him the location of the Shinju, but he decides to stay back instead because there's one more person and he needs to show himself, the uninvited guest. Of course, this person is Boruto, who is now in the village because he teleported there using Flying Thunder God. Now what I want to point out is that Kashin Koji sent him to Mount Miyaboku, but he's now in the village. So it could be the case that he went to Mount Miyaboku, which is the land of the toads, to grab something that he needs to use against the Shinju. But this wasn't shown in the chapter, so it could be speculation. On one hand, it could be that he went there to gather nature energy because you can gather enormous amounts of nature energy in Mount Miyaboku very quickly. So that might be the case, or it might be the case that he went there for an item or something, but I guess we'll have to find out. He then connected to Shikamaru once again, and he told him that the target of the Shinju is Himawari. And this actually surprised Boruto, which does somewhat dispel the theory that Boruto knew what was going to happen with Himawari, but he allowed it to happen because it needed to happen. So that doesn't appear to be the case here. Boruto is as shocked as everyone else. He also told him that she's somehow related to the Kyuubi chakra, which also shocked Boruto, so Boruto really doesn't know anything about Himawari. But that's when Kawaki shows up and immediately informs the sensory team that Boruto is in the village near the main gate where the Jonin were killed. He then asks Boruto, why are you being so secretive? Are they your friends, those monsters? So it seems that Kawaki is implying that Boruto is responsible for the deaths of these people, and I just find it so weird because he knows that Boruto is in control at this point. So why would Boruto kill the members of his own village, and why would he work with people trying to kill people in his own village? You know, that's so weird. But then of course Boruto, who's the sensible one here, says, are you really the type to be playing around here, especially when Konoha is under attack? And Kawaki replied saying, not so very self-aware are you? You are the enemy of Konoha, Boruto. Boruto then replied saying, enough nonsense. We should deal with them first, referring to the Shinju. So would you like to come with me? Kawaki then replied saying, are you mocking me? Then immediately attacked Boruto using his rods. And you guys know this played out based on the spoilers. Boruto dodges them with ease, then just casually walks up to Kawaki, dodges the rods again, and then just easily blitz Kawaki with a single punch to the stomach, knocking him down to the ground. And it's absolutely insane because Kawaki is on the ground in pain, crying, holding his stomach from one punch from base Boruto. This is crazy. It shows that Boruto is just way above Kawaki. He couldn't even stand a single punch from base Boruto. Kawaki is very weak at this point. And again, this could go back to what I mentioned before with the Karma Seal issue, but we'll see how that plays out. Now I'm not going to go over why it makes sense that Boruto is stronger than Kawaki at this point in time. If you guys want the breakdown, go back to the prior spoiler video. What I want to focus on here is the fact that Kawaki decided to attack Boruto instead of teaming up and go after the actual enemy. Now, I just want to make it very clear. Boruto is a potential threat to the village because Momoshiki can take control of his body. So Kawaki is right to be very cautious, but at the same time Boruto is a potential threat, not an active threat, because Boruto is in control of his body at this point in time and Kawaki knows this, and Kawaki also knows that Boruto doesn't have any ill intent towards the village. So it makes sense that he should team up against the Shinju with Boruto and then handle the potential threat of Boruto after the fight with the Shinju. It makes perfect sense. The enemy of your enemy is your friend. And Sasuke did something similar, like he teamed up with Naruto to fight Kaguya and Madara, and after all of that was dealt with, he then went on to try to kill Naruto. It makes sense that you would team up when you need to. So people on Twitter, they're like commenting saying that, oh, it makes sense that, you know, he shouldn't trust Boruto because Boruto is also a threat. It's so foolish because Boruto isn't an active threat, he's a potential threat. There is an active threat at this point, killing people in the village and destroying the village, and might even kill Himawari. What are you doing? It just doesn't make sense. So Kawaki isn't thinking rationally, he's thinking very emotionally at this point. And it makes sense, he's very emotional about protecting Naruto and the village. And he wants to get rid of Boruto so he can bring Naruto out of Daikokuten. So he's just acting emotionally. Which is why he then can't try to justify his actions using logic, because it isn't logical, it's based on emotion. But that aside, Boruto knocks down Kawaki and says, this is so pathetic, you haven't even trained properly, have you? So the bro is just looking down on Kawaki at this point. It's just very embarrassing for him. Of course, Kawaki fans, if you guys are watching, this is only temporary. You guys know Kawaki is gonna step up again based on episode 1. So just continue taking the L's, take them with pride, and endure the mocking because it's gonna look up one day. Just not today. Just not today. Now Kawaki then tried to activate his karma because, you know, he's getting beat up by base Boruto, and that then triggers Boruto's karma due to resonance. And Boruto can't control this. He can't prevent it from activating. And this has always been the case. Whenever Kawaki tried to resonate with Boruto, the karma always activated involuntarily. So this isn't anything new. The only difference is that Boruto is trying to stop it from activating, which he didn't try to do before. So it seems that Boruto is really struggling here, and then the Toad tells him that he needs to leave and keep his distance. He will get out of control. So Boruto then flies away and leaves Kawaki behind. And Kawaki actually takes note of this, that Boruto can't control his karma, which implies that he's going to try and exploit this later on to get Boruto to rage out of control. Now this might help Kawaki's case of getting rid of Boruto if he needs that help later on down the line, but it's also very bad for Kawaki because if base Boruto is doing this to Kawaki, bro, I can't imagine I cannot imagine what Momoshiki with the Karma Seal active would do to Kawaki. It's absolutely insane. So this might not be the best course of action, but we'll see how that plays out. Oh, there's one thing I need to address because I got like multiple comments on the prior spoiler video when addressing this point, and also on Twitter as well. So Momoshiki still has the ability to possess Boruto's body. His consciousness can still come forth within Boruto if he wants to. Now, there seems to be some unknown conditions, maybe Boruto getting badly damaged or low on chakra, but he is able to do it as seen in chapter 79, which is after Boruto was resurrected by Momoshiki. So Momoshiki resurrecting Boruto doesn't prevent him from taking over his body temporarily, he just can't resurrect because a portion of his data was used to heal Boruto. So that's the difference. I've seen a lot of comments saying that they didn't know that Momoshiki could still possess Boruto, but yes, he can, and there seems to be some conditions, maybe Boruto getting damaged or something else. It hasn't really been clarified because again, this is a Boruto that's different from what he was before. He's now 100% Otsutsuki and he's somewhat merged with the Karma Seal. So the method by which Momoshiki is able to take control might be different from what it was before. But what we do know is that Momoshiki was able to take control of Boruto's body in chapter 79 after Kawaki slashed his eye. So there might be a trigger for pain, but there might be something else as well that hasn't been revealed as yet. And I feel like Boruto is trying not to use the Karma Seal because he doesn't want to rely on Momoshiki's power, because the more he uses Momoshiki's power, the easier it is for Momoshiki to take control of his body. And it somewhat mirrors what happened with Naruto and the Nine Tails back in early Shippuden. Now if you want to get more information on this and a good breakdown of what exactly I'm saying, go to this video that's on screen at this point after you're finished watching this one. This video goes into the hidden Byakugan of Momoshiki and the hidden Rinnegan on Boruto's palm and the reason why he keeps them covered. So that video should answer all of your questions about why Boruto doesn't want to use his Karma Seal. By the way, 81% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel. So if you guys are enjoying the content and you'd like to see more, help me out by tapping the subscribe button and also dropping a like on the video to help me out in the algorithm. With that said, let's get back into the video. Now we then switch back to Team 10 versus Jura, and Inojin has Himawari on one of his birds trying to fly away. Now it also shows Shikadai holding on to Jura using shadow paralysis, and he says to him that he shouldn't get distracted because they're his opponents. And Jura replied saying, "Is that so? Too bad." And then we see him instantly create this Biju bomb looking thing using one of his Rennegans. And initially in the spoiler review I said that we've never seen someone do this before, like create a Biju bomb using a dojutsu, because we've seen the Tail Beast use it using their mouths and we've seen Naruto do it with his palm. But someone mentioned in my comments that Momoshiki did it back when he fought Boruto. He did use the Rinnegan in his palm to create a Biju bomb. Now, the only difference is that we haven't seen someone do it with the dojutsu in their eye sockets, which is the interesting part. But then again, everything that hasn't happened is just something that has yet to take place, so it is what it is. Now before Jura could fire off this Biju bomb, completely annihilating Shikadai, Chocho kinda pushed him off using her palm, which somewhat redirected the bomb outside of the village. So initially it seemed like the bomb did explode inside the village, but no, it was outside in the forest, and this was shown from Sarada's perspective as well. Now I feel like I need to address this in this video because I know someone is gonna go in the comments and say Shikadai is now Jura level because he held on to Jura and restricted him from moving, you know, whatever. And also Chocho is Jura level because Jura did not dodge her attack. But I want to point out that this doesn't really mean that Jura couldn't have broken out of the shadow paralysis, it just means that he chose not to. And just to clarify, we had Naruto, full power Naruto, just flexing his KCMR 6-path Sage Mode form and was able to break out of Shikamaru's shadow paralysis. So I feel like if Jura wanted to break out, he could have flexed out of it, but he just didn't feel like doing it, and he didn't seem to be in any trouble whatsoever, and he really wasn't. And the Chocho feat is interesting because it seems like Jura just allowed her to do it because he was intrigued by their actions. And this is supported in the chapter itself when Hidari asked him if they should run after them. And Jura replied saying that Himawari is the target. If she's handed over, all is settled. Despite knowing this, they continue to resist. Hidari calls them fools. They must have low intelligence. He then tells Hidari that he's wrong. In order to resist, something must be driving them to act out of their own survival instincts. What do you think that is? That will be critical information for us as well. So it seems that Jura is trying to understand why they're doing what they're doing, what's motivating them to act against their own survival instincts. So him not blitzing them or not killing them using wood style like he did to the other ninjas just means that he finds them very interesting and is just playing with them. Now we then skip over to Himawari flying away with Inojin, Shikadai, and Chocho. And it seems that they wanted to free the village to lure Jura away from it because he's tracking Himawari, but Himawari asks them to leave her by herself and she'll run away. That's when it seems like she's teleported to another time space, and we see this beast standing behind her that looks very similar to Kurama, the Ninetales. He then says, "Good grief, never expected it to be the Ten Tails guy, to be sniffed out like this." It's then revealed that the beast within Himawari is a baby Ninetales. He then says, "Little girl, do you know me?" She says, "QB, right?" And that's where the chapter ends. Now this part is really interesting. Now, there are multiple factors we need to consider when talking about this new version of Kurama, because it could be a case that this is a new version of Kurama that was created in Himawari due to the Ninetales chakra that was dispersed into her when she was conceived. But it could also be the case that this is Kurama, the Kurama that died in the battle versus Shiki, that has now reincarnated in Himawari. And this makes sense because it is stated in Naruto that the Tail Beast will always return even after being killed. It just takes a certain period of time. Now this time wasn't revealed in the story, but we have seen this with the Three Tails that was killed in the body of Rin but re-emerged a few years later. So it could be the case that this happened with the Ninetales that died in the battle versus Shiki, and this Ninetales is just the same Ninetales reincarnated. But then again, it's somewhat weird that the Ninetales would reincarnate in Himawari's body and not in some random forest. But if I was to play devil's advocate, I could say that maybe Himawari had some of the Ninetales chakra from Naruto, and that's why she has like the whiskers of the Ninetales. And because she has this chakra, the Ninetales chakra that was evaporated from Barin mode was attracted to her body. So she's like a tether to the Ninetales, and that's why the Ninetales reincarnated in Himawari. So there are multiple ways to explain this, and then you have the issue of Himawari having this hidden power before the Ninetales died, which does imply that there's something else at play here. Now what I'm going to do is save this for a video that goes in depth and breaks down the entire topic properly, so we don't make this video any longer than it needs to be. So with that said, we're gonna cut this off at this point. Let me know your thoughts on the chapter itself. Was the chapter awesome? Did you guys learn something new about the Ten Tails and Kurama and maybe Boruto and the Karma Seal? Like, a lot of things took place in this chapter, so we have a lot to discuss in the upcoming weeks, and of course I'm gonna make the videos to discuss them. But again, like, if you guys like the video, drop a like. If you guys have something to say, hit me up in the comments, and if you guys are new, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.